Coyote Pass was meant to be a fresh beginning, a chance for the Brown family to finally plant roots and grow into the loving, united household they always claimed to be. For years, they spoke of it in hopeful tones, imagining a place where all the children could play freely, where laughter would echo through the pines, and where each wife could build her own home yet live side by side with her sisters. The land itself was undeniable. Rolling hills, towering evergreens, open sky stretching endlessly across the horizon. It was the sort of place where new chapters should begin. Yet, instead of unity, Coyote Pass became the family's greatest divide. Christine Brown stood at the border of the property, arms wrapped around herself as the evening wind tugged at her hair. Golden light washed over the hills, turning slowly to violet. Christine had always cherished this time of day when the world seemed to pause, a moment where anything felt possible. But tonight, possibility felt heavy, painful. She had left Cody. She had walked away from a marriage of more than 20 years. From the life she had known and the identity she had worn for so long. Leaving wasn't easy. She had fought within herself for months, torn between her children and the quiet, aching need to reclaim her own happiness. In the end, she chose freedom. She chose to show her daughters that their worth was not negotiable, that peace and self-respect were things you were allowed to reach for. But she never expected that the next battle would come from Robyn, the woman she once believed was a sister. It all began with a letter, among the usual stack of bills and junk mail. One envelope stood out, formal, cold. Christine opened it, expecting nothing. But the moment her eyes ran across the words, her stomach turned. Cody and Robyn had filed documents to claim the most valuable portion of Coyote Pass, the section with the sweeping mountain view, the cluster of ancient cottonwood trees, and the only natural spring for miles. The heart of the property, the part everyone had dreamed of. Had they not promised again and again that everything would be divided fairly? That each wife would be treated equally? Christine's chest tightened. She remembered the meetings, the sketches, the long conversations full of hope. She remembered Robyn saying, "We're in this together, Christine, always." Now those words tasted bitter. Her first call was to Janelle, the steady one, the peacekeeper. "Did you know about this?" Christine asked, voice shaking. A long sigh came through the phone. "I heard something about it, but I didn't think they would actually go through with it. I'm so sorry. This isn't right." Christine pressed her hand to her eyes. "What am I supposed to do, Janelle? I helped pay for that land. I raised the kids. I held this family together. How can they just shut me out?" "You can't let them." Janelle replied quietly. "Fight for what's yours." The idea of a fight made Christine feel sick. Court lawyers, public humiliation. This family had always carried their wounds carefully tucked away. Now those wounds were being forced into the light. But what would she be teaching her daughters if she simply walked away? No, she would not let herself be erased. The next family meeting was suffocating. They gathered in Robyn's living room, the air heavy with history and hurt. Cody sat stiffly at the head of the table. Robyn's hand rested on his arm, as if she were both shielding him and speaking for him. Christine spoke first. "I received the letter." Robyn's eyes flickered, but she said nothing. Cody cleared his throat, forcing a tone of reason. "Since you're no longer part of the marriage, we thought it made sense. I paid for that land," Christine cut in. "I was part of every decision. You don't get to remove me just because I finally chose myself." Robyn's voice remained soft, almost rehearsed. "I'm trying to protect my children, Christine. You leaving changes things." Christine stared at her. "So your children matter. Mine don't." Silence. For the first time, Christine saw fear behind Robyn's calm expression. Perhaps she had expected Christine to do what she always did. Step aside gracefully. Make peace. Fade out quietly. Not anymore. After the meeting, Christine sat in her car with trembling hands and called an attorney. "You have a strong claim," the lawyer said. "You contributed financially. You are entitled to your portion." A breath of relief. A breath of power. But she knew what this meant. She would be the villain now. The one ruining the family. The one causing pain. She had been many things in this family, but she had never been selfish. And maybe that was exactly the problem. As the days passed, loyalties shifted like sand. Janelle stood beside her. Mary stayed neutral, unwilling to involve herself after everything she'd already lost. Cody and Robyn remained united, determined to hold control. The children felt the fracture most of all. A once unbreakable network of siblings and cousins was now tense, divided, hurting. One night, while tucking Truly into bed, Christine felt her daughter's small hand grasp hers. "Ma'am," Truly whispered, eyes wide, "are we going to lose our home?" Christine gathered her close, voice soft but resolute. "No, love. I'm fighting for us. I promise." And in that moment, Christine made her vow. She would fight. For her children. For her future. For the respect she had been denied for far too long. Coyote Pass was no longer just land. It was her line in the sand. And the Browns would never be the same again. The weeks that followed were a quiet war. Not the kind fought with shouting or slammed doors, but the kind where words were measured, glances held meaning. And every interaction felt like stepping into a room full of invisible wires. Christine tried to shield her children, but tension finds cracks. It slips under doors. It lives in silence. It breathes in unfinished sentences. And everyone felt it. The family group chat became a ghost of what it once was. Messages that once came in every hour now barely appeared at all. Cousins who had grown up like siblings suddenly didn't know what to say to one another. Family dinners, once full of chatter, dwindled to hurried meals or canceled plans. Things were breaking at the seams. One afternoon, Christine drove back to Coyote Pass. She stood once more at the edge of the land, watching the wind ripple through the long grass. The mountains rose calmly in the distance, utterly unchanged by the chaos unraveling around them. It struck her then. The land would outlive all of this. The fights, the tears, the betrayals, none of it would matter to the hills and the sky above them. But it mattered to her. It mattered to the life she had built. It mattered to the girls who would look to her to understand what strength looked like. She breathed in the cold air and steadied herself. She wasn't just fighting for dirt. She was fighting for dignity. Meanwhile, inside Robyn's house, a different storm was brewing. Robyn sat at her dining table, papers spread out before her, contracts, maps, financial statements. Her hands moved over them, but her mind was elsewhere. She had always believed she was doing the right thing, protecting her children, securing their place, making sure they didn't face the same instability she had lived through before joining the Brown family. But late at night, when the house was quiet and every sound echoed, she couldn't dismiss a creeping fear. What if Christine didn't back down this time? Cody paced behind her. His jaw was tight. His temper had been simmering for weeks. He didn't like feeling out of control, and Christine's newfound resolve was something he didn't recognize. For years, she had been the agreeable one, the easy one, the one who would swallow her pain to preserve peace. Not anymore. "She's being dramatic," Cody muttered. "She's trying to make a point." "No," Robyn whispered, eyes still fixed on the papers. "She's trying to make a stand." Cody paused. Robyn looked up. For the first time, there was no softness in her voice. Only truth. She has nothing left to lose. That makes her dangerous. Across town, Christine sat at her kitchen table with Janelle. A kettle steamed between them. No words at first. Just the quiet, shared reality of two women who had survived the same storm. Janelle finally spoke. "You know, this is going to get worse before it gets better." Christine nodded. "I know. And once this starts, there's no going back." Christine's eyes lifted, tired but steady. "There was no going back the moment they tried to erase me." Janelle leaned back and let out a breath. "Then I'm with you. All the way." Christine felt something warm in her chest. Something she hadn't felt in a long time. Not hope, strength, real grounded strength. The kind that comes after heartbreak. The kind that grows in the dark. The kind that comes after heartbreak. The kind that grows in the dark. One decision changed everything. The courthouse was quiet, the sort of quiet that makes the air feel heavy. Christine sat on the hard wooden bench, her fingers laced tightly together. Janelle sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. No words were needed. They had said all that could be said. On the other side of the courtroom, Coyote and Robyn sat together. Robyn's eyes were red, her breathing uneven. Coyote looked older somehow, as if the fight had drained something fundamental from him. He stared straight ahead, jaw clenched, refusing to meet Christine's eyes. The judge returned to the bench, her robe trailing slightly as she sat. She looked at the room as though she could see through every heart in it. When she spoke, her voice was calm, clear, final. After reviewing the evidence, she began, "It is my determination that Christine Brown contributed substantially to the purchase of Coyote Pass, both financially and through labor and caregiving over a significant period of time. Therefore, she is entitled to her rightful share of the property." The words lingered in the air. Christine felt her breath leave her. Relief flooded her body so suddenly her vision blurred. She closed her eyes. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Not a tear of sorrow, a tear of release. Beside her, Janelle exhaled deeply, placing a steady hand over Christine's. Robyn's hands flew to her mouth. She looked as though the foundations of her world had cracked beneath her feet. Cody's expression flickered, first shock, then disbelief, then something darker. A realization, not of losing land, but of losing authority. Christine rose slowly. It felt like standing up from a lifetime of kneeling. The judge continued, outlining the legal logistics, but Christine heard none of it. Her heart was pounding too loudly. The courtroom blurred around her. She wasn't thinking of the land. She wasn't even thinking of the trial. She was thinking of every night she cried quietly in her bedroom so the children wouldn't hear. Of every time she swallowed pain to protect the peace. Of every time she convinced herself her needs didn't matter. They mattered now. As they exited the courthouse, cameras flashed. Reporters lunged forward, microphones outstretched, calling her name. Christine raised her head not in pride, but in quiet strength. "I'm just grateful," she said, voice steady. "I did what I needed to do for myself and my children." No accusation, no bitterness, just truth. Coyote and Robyn slipped out through the side entrance, avoiding the crowd. Their car door shut with a hollow thud. Inside, silence sat between them like a wall. Coyote stared ahead, knuckles white against the steering wheel. "I don't understand how we got here," he whispered. Robyn wiped her cheeks. "We didn't listen," she said. It was the closest either of them had come to admitting fault. Meanwhile, Christine returned home. Her children gathered around her, their questions quiet, their eyes searching her face. She knelt down and opened her arms, gathering them close. "It's over," she murmured. "We're okay now." Truly clung to her tightly. For a moment, there was no past and no future, only this. A mother holding her children, a family beginning again. Later that evening, Christine stepped outside. The sky glowed dusky gold, one of those rare sunsets where everything feels suspended. She thought of the land, the hills, the trees, the promises, the betrayals, the bruises that didn't show. And yet, standing there, she realized something vital. Her victory was not Coyote Pass. Her victory was herself. Christine Brown had not simply reclaimed land. She had reclaimed her life. The days after the ruling felt strangely quiet. Not empty. Not lonely. Just still. The kind of stillness that follows a storm when the air is clean and the world feels new, yet unfamiliar. Christine found herself moving more slowly. She savored her morning tea. She let the sunlight pool across her kitchen floor. She laughed more freely with her children. There was a gentleness in her now, not because life had become easy, but because she finally allowed herself to breathe. But peace has a way of unsettling those who have not yet found it. Coyote watched everything unfold from a distance. Not physically, he knew better than to show up at her door, but emotionally. He watched through family group chats, through secondhand conversations, through the quiet absence of his children choosing where they felt safe. Something he had once taken for granted had slipped from his hands. Respect. And it didn't leave loudly. It left one quiet moment at a time. Robyn tried to hold the household together. She cooked more. She kept the house spotless. She organized family nights that everyone pretended would help. Yet the tension remained, thick and constant. Her children walked on careful shoes, avoiding the smallest misstep that might make Cody's temper flare. One evening, after the younger kids went to bed, Robyn found Cody sitting alone on the back porch. His shoulders were hunched, not like a man thinking, but like a man remembering. "She didn't want to fight us," Robyn said softly, taking a seat beside him. Cody didn't look at her. "She didn't want me." Robyn inhaled, slow and controlled. She wanted to be seen. The words were simple, but they hit with weight. Cody closed his eyes. All the years, every argument, every decision, every conversation where he chose being right over being present came flooding back. He had never feared losing wives. He believed deeply that loyalty was owed to him simply because he was the center of the family. Yet Christine had shown him something he was never prepared to face. Love without freedom is not loyalty. It is captivity, and captivity breaks. Meanwhile, Christine was not looking back. She was planning, not in frantic scribbles or desperate survival mode, in quiet, intentional steps. She walked through a small local shop one afternoon, a cozy place with warm wooden shelves and bright local craft sand. She found herself smiling at handmade tableware, real stoneware, not mass-produced, not matching sets to impress guests. Pieces chosen for joy alone. It struck her how unfamiliar choosing for herself felt. She stood there for a long moment. Then she bought the plate. Just one, not a set. A plate that held no role, no performance, no image to maintain. Just a small, simple thing that was hers. That evening, she served dinner to her children, and she placed her meal on that plate. One of the girls noticed. "Ma'am, your plate looks different." Christine smiled. "Yes, it does." "Why?" Christine looked at her daughter's eyes, curious, warm, trusting. "Because I finally get to choose things for myself." The girl considered that, then nodded, with a quiet understanding only children sometimes hold. Across town, Cody sat in a silent kitchen. He was surrounded by the things he had chosen: homes, schedules, structure, authority. But suddenly, none of it felt like his. He realized something Christine had discovered before him. A family is not held together by the person who demands loyalty. A family is held together by the people who feel safe staying. And Christine had stopped feeling safe a long time ago. Christine sat at the plaintiff's table, her fists curled into tight balls in her lap, knuckles pale from the pressure. She did not trust her hands to be still otherwise. Janelle sat beside her, quiet, steady, her presence like a hand on the spine, keeping her upright. Christine drew strength from her without needing to speak. Across the aisle sat Robyn and Cody. Their faces were drawn tight, eyes hollow, breaths shallow. The trial had stripped everyone bare. There was no performance left in the room. No rehearsed smiles. No warm family narrative, only truth and consequence. All eyes were fixed on the judge's chamber door. The days leading up to this moment had stretched endlessly. Christine had replayed every second in her mind. Her testimony, the moments where her voice shook, the moments where she looked Cody in the eye and saw no familiarity there. Robyn's tears, Cody's evasive answers, Janelle's calm but fierce defense. She wondered whether she had spoken too much or too little, whether the judge would see the years behind her words, the labor, the love, the loss. It was not simply pieces of land they were dividing. It was history. Outside, cameras flashed. Journalists stood on the courthouse steps, ready to announce the verdict to the world. On social media, strangers debated her life as though it were entertainment. Christine tried to turn it all away and focus only on her children and the quiet prayers she whispered in the dark. Then, at last, the judge returned. The courtroom rose, then sat. The judge settled her papers. The silence was so heavy that breathing became a task. "This is not an easy case," the judge began, voice level and composed. "This is not merely a dispute about land. It concerns trust, partnership, and a shared vision of family." Christine felt her heartbeat in her throat. She slipped her hand beneath the tablecloth and found Janelle's. Janelle squeezed, grounding her. The law recognizes both financial and emotional contributions when property is built over time, the judge continued. It is my responsibility to honor those contributions fairly. Christine's vision blurred with held-back tears. Upon review of the evidence, it is clear that Christine Brown contributed substantially to making Coyote Pass what it is. Financially, emotionally, and through years of unpaid labor. Her departure from the marriage does not erase her investment. A tiny gasp escaped Christine, barely a sound. She was an equal partner in the dream of the family, the judge said. Therefore, Coyote Pass is to be divided fairly. Christine Brown is entitled to a rightful share. A court-appointed mediator will oversee division if the parties cannot agree. The decision landed like a wave. It rolled over Christine's body, cold, then warm, then overwhelming. She stood still for a moment, unsure if her knees would hold. Then Janelle pulled her into a tight embrace. "You did it?" she whispered. "You truly did it." Across the room, Robyn covered her face, shoulders shaking, the certainty she once clung to fractured. Cody sat motionless, eyes fixed on a future that no longer resembled the one he had envisioned. His authority, his order, his ideal of one united family under his guidance, gone. The gavel struck. The room erupted into movement. Reporters ran for the exits. Phones buzzed with alerts. Lawyers shuffled papers. Christine felt like she was moving through water. Outside, cameras flared. Voices shouted her name. She did not speak. Her lifted chin and tear-bright eyes said everything. She had not won land. She had reclaimed herself. Inside, Robyn wept uncontrollably. "I was trying to protect our family," she whispered. Cody exhaled, empty. "We let fear guide us," he said. We stopped listening. For the first time, Robyn wondered whether in trying so hard to hold on, she had pushed someone away. Later at home, Christine and Janelle sat in the kitchen, hands wrapped around warm cups of tea. "You proved something today," Janelle said. "You proved that love does not erase labor. Commitment does not erase contribution. Okay? You cannot take someone's history away from them." Christine's smile was tired, but steady. "I couldn't have done it alone." "You didn't have to," Janelle replied. The land was quiet in the late afternoon. Coyote Pass had always looked beautiful from a distance. The wide open sky, the curve of the hills, the promise of something lasting, a legacy, a home that was meant to hold for wives, many children, and one united life. Cody used to stand here feeling powerful. Okay. Now he stood alone, hands deep in his coat pockets, jaw tight against the cold wind. There were no cameras, no audience, no wives, no justifications to perform. Just him and the land he once believed would prove that everything he stood for, his decisions, his leadership, his vision had been right. But now when he looked out across the soil, he saw something he had not allowed himself to see before. This land was never just his. Christine had stood here too. In the early days when the dream was new and everyone spoke of shared futures and children running barefoot in the grass, she had stood beside him, smiling, believing, investing everything she had. He remembered the day she picked up a shovel herself, when builders were late and labor was short. He had laughed, told her she didn't need to work like that. She had just smiled and replied, "If it's ours, then it's mine too." At the time, he thought it was sweet. Now, the memory burned, because she had believed, fully, completely. And he had dismissed it as something small. He realized, perhaps for the first time, how much Christine had given not out of duty, not out of obligation, but out of hope. And hope, once cracked, does not rebuild. It shifts. It moves. He walked to the stake in the ground where the house they planned was meant to be. The wind pushed against him, tugging at his coat, cold and sharp. He looked at that empty, foundation, and felt something he had never allowed himself to feel. Regret, not anger, not pride. Not frustration that she did not stay to work it out his way. Regret for not seeing her sooner. Behind him, a car door shut. He turned. Robyn walked toward him, pulling her coat tighter, her breathing uneven. She had cried earlier. He could see it in the redness beneath her eyes. She stopped close enough to speak, far enough to keep safety between them. "Say something," she whispered, her voice thin. Cody stared out across the land once more. "What do you want me to say?" His voice was quiet, almost weary. "That we're still a family," she said. "That we can still fix this." He closed his eyes. The old Cody, the one who led with certainty, would have given her a speech. Promises, plans, orders, direction. But that Cody had already lost more than he understood. When he spoke, his voice was different. "I don't know if I ever understood what family meant. Not the way I thought I did." Robyn's breath shook. "Don't say that. We can't lose everything." He finally looked at her. "We already did." She blinked hard, the words landing with a cold finality she wasn't prepared for. The wind moved through the grass around them. Long, slow, bending everything in its path. The land was still beautiful, still open, still waiting. But it no longer belonged to one man's vision. Christine's footsteps were no longer here. Yet somehow, her absence filled everything. Christine and Janelle stood together and defended their rights to Coyote Pass. In court, it became clear that Christine had contributed just as much as anyone else. Emotionally, financially, and through years of labor and sacrifice. The judge ruled that she deserved her fair share of the land. After the ruling, Christine felt something she had been missing for years: peace and ownership of her own life. Even the simplest things, like choosing a single plate for herself in her kitchen, became symbols of her independence and the life she was now building on her own terms. Meanwhile, Cody traveled to Coyote Pass and finally felt the weight of what he had lost. The silence of the land reminded him that Christine was not simply leaving a marriage. She was reclaiming her dignity and self-worth. For the first time, Cody saw that he had taken her loyalty for granted. Robyn tried to reassure him that the family could still survive this, but Cody knew the truth. Something fundamental had broken. The unity that once held their family together had now fallen apart. Christine moved forward. Cody was left behind.